Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford to bring the RCMP in. You know, I've received a lot of phone calls of people asking me when I am going to, with Abbotsford residents and the federal EDA of the Federal Conservatives, bring Dallas Brody in so she could go at David Eby, because it's sure looking like David Eby, in my opinion, is dumping money into Abbotsford to get it out. And that you can see on Dave Sidhu's property, and Andy Sidhu being the Chancellor of the University and Dave being the City Council in the inside trading to lift his dad's property. And it sure looks like wherever there's private police department, you can dump money in to get it out the back doors. The Abbotsford police officers that had a sworn duty to uphold the law were being owned by a mob and a cartel in Abbotsford to threaten residents. It allowed no chance for Abbotsford residents, the ordinary voter or resident, to step forward and run in the election. And it was an elite establishment that controlled the elections. You had to go through schooling. And we saw that when Mark Warkentine left the police board, that Henry Hand picked him on there. And then all of a sudden in England, magically, nobody knew who this guy was. And magically, he beat everybody. He beat Rian Gasper, he beat Barty Sindhu, and he beat everybody. Because the Chamber of Commerce was cheating him. Abbotsford First was speaking for him. Ron Funk had his signs on the developer's property and everything else. So I want to give Colin Watts a good lesson on investigation and why I want the Abbotsford police officers kicked out of Abbotsford. And I want to show you what experience does, what training does, and playing by all the rules. Now I want you to sit there and pick up the phone and start crying to David Eby if we go down. And I want you to listen very closely, Colin Watts. There's not a one officer in the building has stood up and said Mike Sir and Bob Rich were good shit, and tried to correct the problem that Abbotsford residents and myself put on YouTube. They know he was a piece of shit and he was garbage and he was carrying out threats for Henry Braun. And that is why none of the officers went down and said Mike Sir was a good one. And he was a very good guy. They couldn't even defend his honor or him or nothing. Mike Sir covered an attempted murder. Mike Sir's elite officers figured that they were above the law. I'm on George Ferguson and McCallum. I want you to look up this boulevard. And if you look up this boulevard, all development signs have to be front and center by the developer, by the rules of the city. And I learned this from Wall Financial, Aquilini, Mike Dakota, and Stuart Olson. They all have to be front and center so the general community can go in and have a say on it the night of the hearings. And they have a say to say that if the new development is too high, if it's blocking your views, and when the community outrules the general community or the council, you got to go back and resubmit. But when council and them were threatening the community like they did at Cooper's Farm, and Ron Funk changing zonings from 200 to 400, now you got insider trading. But this is what took place. Darren Braun is Henry's son. Henry was the mayor. He made his son the proving officer, economic development proving officer, what brings jobs forwards. Henry used Ross in front of him to make sure Ross couldn't say no to Henry's son. When Darren got caught and Henry knew he was selling me all the information or telling me the information, that I took it over to the RCMP because I knew Mike Sir and the Abbotsford police were dirty. They were full of corruption. And the RCMP put 2 and 2 together, what landed up to be 4, insider trading. When Darren Braun left the city, he also opened a company that puts these development signs front and center all over. And under his development, Blue Sky, which Darren Braun owns, he used the city contacts that he made years and years and years so he could help the developers rush the job sites under Blue Sky. Blue Sky is his development company. But what he did is he took all his signs and he hid them under trees and hid them away so he didn't want the general public to know that. He should not have been allowed to operate business at least till 4 years after leaving the city, because he knew the official community plan and he could take advantage of it And he could phone developers and say, look, when I was the economic development officer, I could tell you what's coming, so you need to buy it. But in return, you buy it, you let me zone it, and period. So you should not have any of that because you had prior history to the community official plan. This is why Henry needed Ross Siemens in and to stop Angie Sohi and me. Now, when you get caught with that development sign and hidden and taking it down and hiding it behind the general public, city manager, city engineer have to make you lose your permit. Now, I can tell you this from experience from Wall Financial. I can tell you from Aquilini, Mike Dakota, Stuart Olson. You lose your permit. Then you're out the cost of the drawing, the zoning, the surveying, the architecture drawings, and everything for the building. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, maybe $400,000 or $500,000 right there and then. So what you want to do is you want to hide the sign, you want to cut the sign down, and you want to pay city officials to make sure that that sign ain't front and center so you can get it through over the general community. But these signs, if you see them, are all front and center. Why? Because the city and the bureaucrats in the city don't get along with these developers, so they run them rigorously. But up at Cooper's, on Cooper's farm, they hit it, and Abbotsford Council ran their signs. Ron Funk hit his. I showed you Darren Brown's hiding all his, all underneath there, of blue sky under the trees, and I'll do another podcast. Then I showed you Ledgeview, which is Polygon. They cut the sign down, they lay it, and they stand it up. It's insider trading. But what happens is the developer stands to lose hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. So it's easier to go in because you already got a corrupt mayor and you already paid the city councils that are voting and winning the decision. That's how they were in Henry's house. And this ain't hearsay. This was Henry's own son, Darren Braun. And now you owe that. So now all you need to do is shut the community's mouth because you got Vicky Hopes and you controlled it, and the community can't stand up, and you're going to get your say, which is insider trading, which is a mob. It's the same as the SS police for Adolf Hitler. So now what you do is you hire the Abbotsford local police, your boys, and you get your boys in uniform that should never be questioned to beat the town, run rigorously on the town, try to frame the town, try to shut their mouth, and then stake them out with the task force in front of their house. Now, the only reason the police would be involved in doing that, rather than investigating and charging Darren Braun, because they know inside trading is a criminal offense, is because you were with it. And this is why Keelan Olenoff could tell me, "Stop the videos, Mr. Pelican, an Abbotsford police officer." And the lawsuit Homo's got pending against City Henry and insider trading, or I will personally fucking bury you. And this is why you could have Abbotsford police smash my cameras and my phones and podcasts and Colin Watts go on his face. And you really want to tell me, Abbotsford, that this police department was about this community. They were running in the shadows of night, threatening them. A mob owned them, and a mob controlled them. The experience of me coming from big developers and knowing by all the rules, by all the bylaws, and by the codes, that Polygon had to resubmit. Ron Funk should have never changed the zoning from 200 to 400. It's insider trading, and he should lose his shit. And then Ledgeview, cutting the signs down with the handsaw at night and laying it down. That means Rob Isaac is in up to his ass on insider trading and taking bribes because he's supposed to pull his whole zoning permit and say resubmit. And you got to put it forwards in the newspaper as mayor and council that this man got caught cheating. But they couldn't do it, because he's already out the major cost of this development, and he probably already got the guarantee, in my opinion, from Rob Isaac, city lawyer and city manager. So now you needed to shut the community's mouth. And since you had Henry Braun's son, the economic development officer, the mayor's own son, Talia, this was a slam dunk. I don't know what Colin Watts, what his shithole investigators did, his trash people thought they were doing. Let me tell you what they thought they were doing. They figured that little police department, the little bit of bullshit they could pull, the little bit of people they could manipulate, because Henry had Ed and Mike DeYoung and Vicky Hopes, and bluff Abbotsford will paint this big picture. There's crime, major crime in Abbotsford, major problems with the homeless, and we'll deflect when we go in and steal and do a hoist. This is why I told you I want to run for your mayor, bring the RCMP in, and forensic audit. Now you know why the Abbotsford police in plain clothes been trying to target me, threaten me, and run me out of town because of this. A developer stands to lose hundreds of millions of dollars promised by the city and mayor that he ran their signs, helped them on their campaigns like Rob Funk, and now he's going to get caught for insider trading. And this is what took place in Abbotsford. But when you're not with the establishment, you got to be rigorous like this and pushed against the wall. And then you meet Rob Isaac, you meet Ross, and Ross goes, well, that won't fit this community, that won't fit this area, that won't fit this, like they did the Augustine billionaire. Then they crush this poor guy, this guy. Then they send somebody in and say, look, you go buy it. And then the guy gives up and he goes, yeah, I'm going to sell it. And he sells it off probably to Aquilini. And Aquilini buys it. And then when Aquilini goes, they go, okay, Henry, send Ron Funk in now to buy it. And Ron Funk comes in and buys it. And you're thinking when you sold it, Ron Funk's going to have the same problems as you. Not knowing Ron Funk's Henry's partner in the city we're working. And then all of a sudden, in a month you walk by and you see this big building and you go, well, shit, how did he get that? That must have cost the developer a lot. No, he had the back doors to the city. And this is why I told you, Abbotsford Community Police was a dumping ground for organized crime, rigging it in from the provincial and the province, and the community police do not have any more ethics, morals, or anything. And then they started tagging in the community. So there was two sets of balance in Abbotsford. There was the upper establishment, and then there was all the taxpayers and voters. And you don't have a chance as a taxpayer and voter to stick your name forward. You got to do, if you watch, you see Amric Moran. So here's a man, Amric Moran, running for council, trained by the establishment, being rolled over. He's done his term on the police board, knowing these developments are 100% illegal, it's insider trading, and he's on the police board, and he's with Colin Watts, and knowing that Darren Brown's sign's hidden, and he's a 25-year lawyer, he chases ambulance, and knowing it's insider trading, and knowing you lose your building permit and your zoning permit. And Amric Moran is trying to tell you that he wants to be council. And you know who should be standing here today telling you all this? Corky Neufeld. But Corky Neufeld wants me, an Abbotsford resident, to lay low till he can get his job as cabinet shadow minister with Caroline Finlay. And this is what he asked. He phoned people and said, can you get Mr. Pelican not to mention my name and what I did with Amric Moran until I'm working on getting a part as cabinet minister for Caroline Finlay, the shadow minister for Caroline Finlay. That means you get appointed to a special position like Ross was and council work to the hospital board and all these boards, and it's above your salary that you work. And this is what he was after. This is Corky's job. This is why I said I want to work with Abbotsford residents. I want to bring one BC. They asked me to bring them in. And we're going to unseat Corky Neufeld. So shit like this never takes place, and Corky starts doing his job, and he doesn't hang with Amric Moran. But what Corky needs to come out and say, Amric Moran is tied to the Abbotsford Police. He knows the law because he's a 25-year attorney. So therefore, there's no excuse and no vigilance to the law, and he didn't know the law, that Darren Brown's signs are illegal. And they got to pull all the permits, and so is Polygons up on Ledgeview. But they couldn't, because Henry owned the city of Abbotsford, and Peter Sparanese, Rob Isaac, and Ross Siemens can't yank, and Vicky Hopes can't print that and go out with the newspaper and show Darren Brown's signs. So I took the liberty to show you. And why I took the liberty to show you? Because Henry sent his boys, his Abbotsford Shoot Squad, the task force, the mentally challenged people that work at the Abbotsford APD psych ward, that went behind that uniform and threatened for a mob and wrecked the company. Now I want to tell you this, Colin Watts. I don't care what uniform you are in. I don't care who you think you are. The rules are the rules, and everybody plays by them, and when you break them, even you get your ass handed to you. So you can hang all you want, and you could say that you need the Abbotsford Police, and what you should be doing now, podcasting with Amric Moran, Ross Siemens, Brad Viss will do it for you, and you should be podcasting. Please, we need to keep the Abbotsford Police intact. Ron Funk's got his development on the Vaquero Ranch, and you see Ledgeview coming, and all these, and Darren Brown's, and we need to keep it to run roughshod so the residents don't speak up. We need to elect a new council, a new mayor, which I'm running, and we need to go in and forensic audit. But I have told you now, and I'll tell you again, this is why I need to call upon the RCMP to take over Abbotsford. The question is, when I feel resistance, when I start feeling resistance, then I know David Eby, in my opinion, was getting money out the back door, and this is why he didn't yank the money off of Dave Sadu and Andy Sadu on Tracy Road. Now, Emmerich Moran, do you think you should still be running for city council when all the other people are doing it? So I'm encouraging Gurpreet Rai to stand up and run. I'm encouraging Eric Nivel to stand up and run. I'm encouraging Bardi Sandhu to stand up and run. I'm encouraging Suki Dami to stand up and run for your South Asians. Make sure that your fair playing ground is some of these South Asians wait 2.5 years because of Henry and Ross Season's racism. Now, Corky, do you still want to go and hang with Ross Siemens, or you want to go in your office and start working for your constituents? I'm live. George Ferguson and McCallum Road.